All right, everyone. I'm just waiting for the Zoom live thingy to tell me we're live. So once I see that, all right, everyone. Whoop, there it is. We're live. Okay. So I've got you here. Oops. Stop doing that. I've got you here so I can see the comments, and we'll get started in a second. There's always a little bit of a lag time getting things set up. All right. If you are here and you're joining us live, feel free to pop an emoji. Let us know that you can hear and see us just fine. Say hello. Let us know where you are joining us from. That'd be awesome too. And let's see here. So I will go ahead and start off. I'm going to introduce myself and what we're doing. First of all, we have had so many new members join the group that I want to take a second to introduce myself. In case you don't know me, I am Audrey Shane. I'm a licensed therapist in Northern California. I have what I'm calling a boutique private practice at this point. I see about, we'll get into those questions in a second here. And of course, I'm the owner and admin of this group. And I'm here to help you create a full, fulfilling, and balanced private practice, one that supports your well-being first, so that you can continue to do this important work for years and years to come without burning out. And today we are talking about what it's been like for me as a therapist to charge $350 a session for the past 2 years, and answer all of your wonderful questions. We had over 60 questions submitted just through the form alone. And so we were able to organize and condense those in a way that makes it really easy to follow along and to get those questions answered. So follow along with us. The replay will be available. It will probably be a limited time replay, at least 1 month. And then it may become something else. So we'll find out. We'll see. I love how business gets to evolve and we get to do things and change things and adapt things. So definitely, if you're catching the replay, hit #replay so that people can benefit from this for the duration that it is available for replay. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take my screen protector thing off really quick. It's a little kind of funky. There we go. That's better. All right. So I am joined by Parker. He's actually one of my Practice by Design students, and he agreed to come and represent all of you to interview me, to be the one to ask the questions and to basically moderate this conversation. So thank you, Parker, so much for joining me here. And go ahead and introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you from?
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Audrey. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and using Practice by Design. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist based out of Los Angeles, but my practice is all virtual. And I mainly just see either men struggling with alexithymia and understanding what's going on with them, or couples that are having difficulty relating and having conflict with each other. And thank you for bringing me into this. I love interviewing and getting to know what's really going on with you.
Yeah, guys, Parker is a fabulous therapist. I've gotten to know him both personally and clinically. And if you're looking for a referral partner in California for men and couples, I highly recommend connecting with him. We'll make sure and drop his information in the comments when we're done here. He's just an incredible human. So Parker, I'm gonna hand it over to you. You get us started. You're in charge of this show.
Awesome. I love this. Well, so the basis of this and why we are all here is understanding, how did you come up with or arrive at $350 per session? Was it something that you started out with from the beginning? Did you arrive at this 2 years later? What was your trajectory, your journey on this decision?
Absolutely. That's a question obviously I get asked a lot, and quite a few people ask me that question. So I did not start at 350, just to be clear. I think I started a lot like most of you guys and like most therapists, where I kind of guessed at what fee I should be using, and I kind of thought about like, oh, what are other people charging, and how long have I been doing this, and what do I have going on, and like what do I do, and what am I worth, and all that stuff. And when I started my practice, my private practice, because I had been a private practice intern for a little while, I actually kind of started on BetterHelp to kind of test the waters, and we all know how terrible they pay. So that's kind of where I started. And then coming off of that platform, I started charging only like, I don't know, 60 to $100. It was really low. Um, I kind of matched my fees from when I was pre-licensed and didn't really think about it because it was sort of this extra thing I was doing on the side from my agency job. I very quickly realized that wasn't going to work. And I did increase my fees a little bit along the way before I had kids. But then when I had my twins, which happened a couple years after I actually started my practice, by started, I mean, I had like 3 clients. After I had my twins, things really, really changed for me, and I realized that I had to do things really differently. And I started creeping my fees up like a little at a time, but I wasn't increasing fees for current clients. And so I had literally had clients all the way from like $60 to $185.
Mm.
And you know, there was a point at which I recognized that my husband in particular, and if you've heard my story before, you know this. My husband was working 2 jobs. He was a police officer and a reservist in the military, and his health was starting to suffer significantly because he was trying to support our family and make it so that I didn't have to work. And I realized that offering these reduced fees and doing my job the way that I was doing it was actually harming his health. And at a fundamental level, that became that like I couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't handle being that in his life anymore. And so at that point, I made the decision to raise all my clients to 200. That was the number I decided based on the math and the things that I had done to that was going to serve our family well. And it did for a little while. It did very well for a while. I stayed at that fee for about a year. And I still found that my practice was overfull, and I wanted to make space for doing business coaching because I was getting asked to do it. And I was really enjoying it, and it tapped into a different part of my brain. And so I started doing it, and I very quickly realized that seeing clients at 200 and seeing as many as I was seeing and being chronically overfull and doing this other business endeavor were not going to mix.
Mm.
And I remembered that my dream fee that I had calculated years ago was 350. And again, this was based on, you know, the calculations that I used to make sure that I was seeing the right number of clients, earning the right amount of money, and protecting my energy.
Mm.
And there was this moment where I thought, well, what am I waiting for?
Mm.
Right? Like my practice is full. I don't need more clients. I I'm getting plenty of inquiries. What am I waiting for?
Mhm.
So I just took a chance and I raised it to 350. And I just left it there. And I wanted to see what would happen. And then, surprise, I got clients.
Mm.
And they said yes. And I was like, whoa, that worked. Maybe I can get another one. And then that just kept happening. And so that's how it started. That's how I got there. And because of it, I've been able to actually reduce my caseload and maintain my earnings. Yeah.
Which for me is inspiring and huge to hear, because I think what I hear ultimately through this weave and thread and of your story is being able to afford a work-life balance while maintaining your bills and your health and taking care of your family, which is huge for people in our field. And
Absolutely.
one of the things I think uh, that comes up that I hear often, right, is like, okay, I can only raise my rate based on qualifications or trainings or either cost of living per year. And so, like, what made you feel so comfortable that I was like, what am I waiting for? Was it just this traction that you were consistently getting, or what was that for you?
That's a great question about like what made it possible. And I think part of it was that I knew I had done the marketing work to get the clients. I had invested pretty significantly in my marketing, a
Hmm.
really outstanding website, well-defined niches. I've done, decades of networking, just naturally. And I've been able to I've been good at maintaining just enough contact for people to think of me. Um, and so I felt like I had the foundation and I had the incoming clients to take that risk. And I figured, well, if I get to a point where no one says yes and I don't have any clients at that fee, that nothing says that I can't bring it back down. Like
Mhm.
that's an option. Nothing says that I can't choose to offer reduced fee spots, even with that being my full fee. So like I knew that I had other options, so I felt comfortable taking that risk. And I knew I had a stable base of clients because I wasn't bringing them up to that fee. I
Mhm.
knew I had a stable base of clients that was going to sustain me for quite a while because my clients tend to stick around a long time. And so based on the risk profile, I thought, well, this is a good time to take that risk and to just give it a chance, see what happens.
So ultimately, what I'm hearing from you though is you had a strong foundation of like marketing, right? And a
Yeah.
huge focus of niches that allowed you to get consistent traffic and traction to know, okay, I have a heavy flow of people coming in that is not like making me have any scarcity mindset or know that this is not going to keep coming. I'm curious for you, do you offer longer sessions because of your price point or like anything in particular that would make it stand out further?
Right. So we get into that question of like worth or qualifications or like what makes you worth it, which is a really good question, right? Um, so I got quite a lot of like questions around this idea of what makes you qualified, what makes you worth that,
Yeah.
right? And you know, kind of speaking to that. So first of all, I don't have any special certifications. I don't have any special trainings. I've done trainings. I have done CEUs. I have done, special interest trainings, but I'm not certified in anything special. Um, and my niches are good. They're clear, but they're not like I see entrepreneurs, perfectionists, law enforcement spouses, couples, right? They're not like extra high, high need rarities or anything like that. Um, and no, I don't specifically. Like my sessions are 50 minutes. So it's pretty standard stuff. And so the question of like what makes you worth that, for me, we need to separate worth and value, like the number from worth and value, right? Like it's not about the number. It needs to not be about the number. It needs to be about what works for you. Because I know therapists who are very financially comfortable because their spouse makes a good amount of money and they're very comfortable charging $150 a session. And that's what they want to charge. And that feels good for them. And they are in a good place to be able to do that. And so they do. And then I know therapists who can't afford to not charge higher fees because they are the sole income provider. They need to earn a certain amount of money. They have a special needs child or an additional needs child that needs extra time and energy from them. And so they have limitations that require them to charge more. So if we can separate your worth and your value from the number that you charge, does that free you to think about the number you charge differently? Right? Can we just split that up?
And I think that brings up for me this bigger topic, which I'll personally share that I struggle with originally was the scarcity mindset, right? This idea of like, can I do this? Can I charge this much? Um, because I was prior at a group practice where they were charging 215 and I was shocked that people were coming to see me, and ironically, when I went out on my own, I was like, well, I don't know if I can, that I charge people lower because I had this deficit feeling of, can I do that?
Right.
And and I think that's the thing. If I want to understand, how did you get over this either imposter syndrome or fear aspect for anything else? Because it seems interrelated to the sense of worth.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So one of those things was looking at my former supervisor's fees. When I
Mm,
was setting my fees, I realized that they had not increased their fees very much over the past decade.
mm,
And it dawned on me that, like, okay, if I'm supposed to charge less than them and they're not increasing their fees,
mm,
even to match inflation,
mhm,
I'm screwed,
Yeah,
right? Like that's
totally.
I'm screwed. I can't do that. So I just thought to, many of you have heard me say this before, like stop basing your fees on generations of therapists undervaluing themselves and not pacing with the economy. Like stop it. Stop it. You don't know why they set their fee that way, so why compare yourself?
Yeah.
You're not like them in a lot of ways. You're not a spouse of somebody who's wealthy. You're not, maybe they're a single parent. Maybe they're, like I said, spouse of somebody who supports them. Maybe they are whatever. It doesn't matter. You're not them. Stop basing your fees on them.
Well, I appreciate hearing that. I think one of the important things like that you've at least provided for me is mentorship to get out of that. Because if we don't have that, we're just going to look around other people and what's going on and compare ourselves. And I know I've done this too. And then, you know, but you have to look at it also on what is my level of experience? What have I done? What have I researched? How much am I attuned to my clients? And how comfortable do I feel and confident do I feel when I show up? Uh,
Hmm.
and, and with that, um, I just wanted to also understand for you, have you gotten any pushback from other people about charging this much?
Mm.
How have
Um,
you dealt with that?
yeah. So, well, let me see here. Hold on a second. I might pause you for a second. Pushback. So, I think we come to that question a little further down.
Yeah, I was sorry, was tying in these things to go back to then your practice and Paul. I should have
Oh
really.
yeah, no, 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 you're good. See, we're everybody, this is how we're winging it, right? Um, yeah, so I mean, pushback, yes and no. Um, I want to talk more about the pushback concept later because I think that's a bigger conversation.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, because we'll talk about judgment and pushback in detail.
Then I would be curious to understand if you set your rate at this, you must have a lower caseload.
I do. I do. So, yeah, there were a significant number of questions about like the details of my practice. It was really interesting to see how many people wanted to know like what my practice looks like and like what my workday looks like. Um, and so let me give you guys just like an overview. How many clients do I see? I see about 8, give or take, clients a week.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, but that's about my average. I'm actually working on getting down to 7 clients a week, to make more space for a lot of my coaching stuff. So that's currently what it is. Um, I see them daytimes, so Tuesday and Wednesday are pretty much it. I have some overflow clients on like Thursday sometimes if I need to reschedule or if somebody has a scheduling conflict, I might open a Thursday spot for that. Um, what else? So most of my clients see me every 2 weeks. That's the majority of them. I have a few weekly clients. Any given moment, I'll have 1 to 3 weekly clients, but the majority of them are every 2 weeks. And then, like for me, again, typical week, it's going to be different for me because I run 2 businesses, right? My therapy practice pretty much operates on Tuesday, Wednesday with some admin time on the other days, but it's minimal and I have most of it automated. So it actually runs pretty much in the background. Um, and I don't have to do a lot with it to keep it going. Like I said, we'll get into marketing here shortly, but um, most of what I've done sustains itself in terms of my marketing. And so there's minimal marketing as well at this point. Um, so that's kind of like what a typical week looks like.
Do all of your clients pay 350?
No, no, not yet. No. My average fee per session is somewhere around 320, 330. And so the people who were at 200 before have been slowly creeping up over time as their annual fee increases have been coming up. And so I still do annual fee increases for anybody that's below my full fee. But it's about 2/3, no, about 3/4 of my practice now pays that full fee.
But then I'm curious, right? So like, are your clients specifically populated in an area that's higher cost of living and focused?
They're
They
not.
virtual and spread. Oh, these are all over?
All over California, right? So I'm fully virtual, so everybody's virtual, but it is all over California. I have some people who are local to me, and to be clear, like I'm in this, like the Sacramento vicinity. It is not a wealthy area. We have pockets of wealth, but overall, it's such it's a very broad socioeconomic area. And I have served people in Wilton, which is very rural. I have served people in very rich areas of Southern California. I have served people like I serve, um, there's more questions about my clients, but like location wise, I'm not like in a particularly wealthy area, and neither are a lot of my clients.
I'm curious then if they're all over, how do people find you in that regard?
Mostly my website. Yeah. Mostly, so it's either website, or referrals primarily. And I actually have some stats on that coming up soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if you were to do a consult, what does a consult look like for you? How long is it? Is it free? Do people know about your fee before?
Yeah,
Do people
definitely.
scoff at it? Like, what's that look like overall if someone finds you online and then gives you a call?
Yeah, so I definitely put my feet out there publicly. They do know it if they read it. Not everybody reads. And so some people will contact me without knowing my fee because they didn't look. And so, my consultations are actually really structured. I keep them brief, about 20 minutes. I have a really specific structure. I actually have a training I'm going to be creating specifically on this in the very near future, actually. I'm really excited for it. But yeah, like I'm super transparent. I have a very structured consultation format. And somebody asked me about my conversion rate. That is a hard question to answer um, because I don't um, have room most of the time to take people on. So let me give you the stats for this year. I have had 63 inquiries. I've done 15 consultations as a result of those inquiries, partly because I'm mostly full all most of the time, and so I've declined to even offer them most of the time. Of those 15 consultations, 9 of them became clients. So I have a really high conversion rate from consultation to client. Two of them stated that two people that did those consultations stated that they could not work with me because my fee was too high. And then the remaining was that four were not a good fit, and I referred them to other people. Yeah.
Well, I think also what I hear is you're very structured and organized with how you navigate this process for yourself, that everything seems pretty streamlined and thorough, which is amazing.
Thank you.
And getting into the weeds of it all is um how do you navigate cancellation policy? Is it 24, 48 hours? Are you a hard no? Do you have leniency? And how many can, continue if, they miss because of that?
Yeah, so policies were part of the questions that were asked, like what are my policies, particularly around cancellation. And so my general policy is 48 hours, and or if we can reschedule that appointment within a period of time or within a reasonable amount of time without impacting other appointments, so that I maintain my income. I'm fortunate to have very low rates of cancellations, and so I haven't needed to change my policy because of that. I'm very clear up front that about like my expectations for people to attend, to notify me that I will be flexible when I need to be, because things happen. And so I do have sort of unwritten flexibility into my policies such that like if something really happens, then we can flex. And I usually allow like one freebie a year. Again, it's not written into my policies, but it's sort of something that I allow for because my kids get sick too, right? Like it happens. And so because I've had consistency, I haven't really had to change that policy. But if that became a problem, I'd probably revisit it.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit more about your niches and specialties and how you came to them? Because I think for me, that was a journey of navigating how to get to that. And then how many do I have? How do I condense it? And especially when we're marketing ourselves, that's a huge vital importance on why is someone going to choose you overall.
Yeah, I kind of group this under that idea of like who are my clients?
Mm,
Like I got a lot of question about like who are these people that can afford you? Who are the clients? And so, like I mentioned earlier, my niche specialties are sort of overachieving perfectionists, law enforcement spouses, entrepreneurs, and couples. And most of the people that I work with kind of fall under the umbrella of sort of high achieving, overachieving perfectionist type folks, anxious folks. So that's sort of my overarching thing. And then I have these like little niches underneath of that. And I think because I'm special, because I claim to be specialized in those things, like I work with entrepreneurs, and as an entrepreneur, I love working with entrepreneurs, and we dig into all of the things related to that. When somebody is looking for therapy as an entrepreneur, they want to know that you are an expert in that. And I feel like at this point I can say, yes, I am enough of an expert in that that I can claim that. And so these are people that are looking for somebody who understands where they're coming from. And that kind of gets into that idea of what like the marketing aspect, and we're going to talk about that next more in detail. But like they are normal people. These are normal people, guys.
yeah.
Like they're not super wealthy rich folks, to be clear. Like I think that kind of gets into this next question we're coming up on, but like who can afford this, right?
Well, I think a part of it when it gets the higher rate is who can afford it, but also, one thing I've noticed too is if they can afford that, does that mean they're only going to see you for 3 months versus, 6 months, year, and whatnot?
Yeah, so my very first 350 a session client
Huh?
saw me for one full year every week at that rate.
Wow.
Yeah, she was the first one to say yes, and she saw me for a full year, and she is an educator married to a cop. So like a normal person.
Okay.
Right? And so I realize I'm in Northern California. I realize that it's variable, that we're going to talk about this in a few minutes, but like she's not a super rich wealthy person in a
Yeah.
million dollar, multi-million dollar home. She's just an educator married to a cop in the Bay Area.
And I'm curious, is everyone okay just paying, or do they ask for super bills? Like how is this? Because I think one of the things also to navigate when we get into higher fees is whether someone has disposable income or at some point they're like, can I get a reimbursement? How does this work? So I'm just
Oh
curious.
yeah, definitely. So I partner with SuperPay, Superbill, a company called Superbill, and then they have SuperPay, which is a way that they help people get reimbursed. And so it is something that I've integrated into my practice. I think it was something that I felt was really important for me as a premium fee therapist to make it easier for my clients to get reimbursed if they choose to do so. And so I would say probably about a quarter of my clients, it's again not a lot, but about a quarter to a third of my clients utilize that service and submit for partial reimbursement.
And how do you find clients like this? Because I think one of the themes that I hear from you overall is you have really specified your marketing and your niche, which has
Yeah,
helped you and help people find you. But how would
definitely.
anyone be able to find clients that would, come in and note this for themselves?
Yeah, so you have to be able to find the people who both can and will pay. And I think that's the tricky part here is that like can and will are actually two different things. So a part like the numbers of money only matter to the extent that you either have it or not. Beyond that, it's more about your relationship to money and your client's relationship to money, right? I had a client, a couple who they make over $1 million a year and they were hesitant to pay 200 a session for couples therapy. And I've had people who don't even make near that much say, yeah, 350, totally fine. I can make that work. Right? So beyond the point of whether or not you have the money, literally, It's about, will you pay the money, right? Because that same couple was door dashing 3 nights, 3 times a night, 3 times a day, right? They were paying that much per day in DoorDash, but they didn't want to pay it for weekly therapy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, I think we have to get out of our head around this idea that like, if they can, they will, or if they will, they can. It's not the same thing. And so it's finding the clients who both can and will, and part of that is being really steadfast in your confidence that like, no, this is what I charge, and it either works for you or it doesn't,
Yeah.
and that's okay either way.
Yeah.
Um,
And really trusting in that process that like this is who I am and what I stand by.
yeah.
Um, I'm curious to go off that more of like, um, if you were to recommend any therapist and specific out there who's watching or stumbles upon this video, what would help them get to that in their future vision if they have the same ideology of wanting, whether it's 350, 300 sets?
Whatever it means, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the thing about like whatever it means, like whatever your desired fee is, it doesn't have to be 350. I don't like the number, again, the number isn't the issue here.
yeah.
Um, it's what can you do in the, moving forward to get there. I think really focusing on investing in your marketing strategies is really, really important. Getting a solid marketing stuff done, having an outstanding website, having an outstanding confidence in yourself, learning how to convert people on your consultations. Again, not in a salesy way, but in a really like honest and authentic way. Getting okay with marketing. It's not yucky. It's just helpful. You're being helpful. You're helping them find the right therapist by making sure they know you exist, right? Like, I think those are the things that you can focus on. And then getting some help with your money mindset stuff, whether that's through coaching or therapy or whatever it is, to really work through whatever your internal barriers are that are keeping you from it.
Yeah,
And I'm going to add, I got a question in here about like, do I target high income areas? Yes and no. I want to be clear about like yes and no. I play with my zip codes. I target the state as a whole. I network in a variety of places. Like I don't specifically target high income areas as much as like maybe you might think. I'm more statewide. I'm like, hey, I don't know where people exist that can pay this.
sure.
I've made assumptions about that and they were wrong. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to make assumptions about that anymore.
Um, curious then, do you have a good SEO that people find you?
I seem
Like,
to. I've done most of it myself. I mean, I got help with my web developer in terms of like making sure my website was um, written and created in a way that is friendly to search engine optimization. But the rest of the steps I did myself, and so I seem to have good SEO. I think part of that is that my website in some form has been up for over a decade. And so that's one of the reasons that I really encourage people to put up a one-page website early, like as fast as possible, even if you're planning on launching later. If you're able to put a website up, the sooner you get your domain name up, the sooner you get a website up, the sooner you start getting credibility with Google. And I have a training on that. It's only $9. One-page website, $9. Get your website up. But I honestly think that actually had like something to do with my website getting good traction quickly once I redid it. Yeah.
that totally makes sense. I mean, obviously, the longer you're out there, there's a lot more history for you.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm curious overall, like it sounds like you've kind of created this life for yourself of doing different things that you want to do. I know for me, right, I wanted to bring this up as one of the reasons I want to charge a high rate at some point like this is because I want to have a work-life balance. I enjoy being a therapist, but there's other aspects of myself that I want to do that I don't
Right.
necessarily want to see a high caseload at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And so, um, I'm curious how you navigate from other people, either um, inspiration or judgment or what comes up around this, because I think there's a lot of thoughts and feelings when someone has a higher rate and
Oh,
how.
totally. This is where we get to the really fun stuff. The idea of mindset, judgment, inspiration, all of that, right? Um, it's a mixed bag, right? So I think when I started talking about this stuff publicly, not a lot of people were, and I think more and more people are talking about work-life balance, money, fees, burnout, that kind of stuff. Like the conversation's happening more, which it needs to. So first, I think that's a big piece of this is that when I started talking about it, I was kind of one of a few voices that was willing to speak out about this. And I can definitely tell you, like, if there were posts in certain Facebook groups that people would just demolish
Yeah,
each other about this stuff. Like, I have never seen therapists be so self-righteous and judgy than I have in those posts.
yeah,
And that's a little bit concerning. But I think it speaks, and this is how I deal with it. It speaks more about that person's internalized beliefs about money and worth and value than it does about me. That if somebody says, oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess it's fine that you charge that, but I value accessibility. And it's like, oh, that's an interesting comment. That is a very interesting, we'll talk about like we'll talk about accessibility in a second, but like, can you hear the judgment coming through? I
yep,
can hear your mindset behind that comment, and I've learned to give it back to them emotionally. Like that's not about me. It's about whatever they haven't worked through, about what that means to them, and their feelings about what I'm doing or not doing, what they think I should be doing or not doing. Um, and so I think if we can see it through the lens of like, oh, that's what they're going through, that's what they're working through, or not, that's what they're holding on to. And I know that holding on to that belief is going to burn me out. And if I
yeah,
burn out, I will stop being a therapist. And if I stop being a therapist, I help no one.
yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, right? Taking on that mindset is going to break us down and what that looks like. And I'm also curious of, do you surround yourself with other like-minded people as well who support you and nurture you in that, right? Because if we don't have that, that's not going to help with that. And I'd be curious of how, you navigated that or have come up with that.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned to well, one, I'm pretty upfront about what I do and what I charge and why. And so even when I'm meeting new people or talking to new therapists and they find out what I charge, like I kind of read their response a bit and I'm like, oh, is this somebody who's going to be in their own stuff about it and it's going to
Okay.
feel really like challenging to me? Or is this somebody who's like, wow, that's interesting. I might want to do it differently, but that's really cool. That they're interested and supportive and willing to look at their own biases and that kind of stuff. And like, okay, cool. Like we're good, you know? And I think really, again, it's not from this place of like, oh, those other people can't be around. It's just like, oh, they are not there. They're not there. They have their own stuff, and I'm going to leave it with them, and I'm not going to bring it with me.
Um, and one last question around this topic that I want to, inquire of. What do you tell people that start doing that and then like doubt whispers, occasionally in their ear and then shakes up their system at whatever point during their journey of trying to hold this number?
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to it. There's the logistical aspect, and then there's like the emotional aspect. And I like to look at the emotions first and like, what is that's whispering for you? Is it coming from somewhere outside of you? Is it coming from somewhere inside of you? Like doing your own therapeutic work around like what's creating doubt for you, and then not making your decisions based on fear, right? Like, there have been many times where I could have slid my scale, reduced my fee because I was afraid of not getting another client. But if I did that, I wouldn't have room for the next full fee client. And because I didn't, I got the next full fee client and I was fine. I was fine. And so I think that's piece of it. And then also the idea of like the pressure from other people and not taking it on as your own.
Hmm. One of the things you talked about before when you were sharing about having this rate is the perceived judgment of, yeah, but I like accessibility. And I
Mm.
want to kind of pivot into, how does this relate to you? Does this relate to you? Do you do either sliding scale or accessibility to maybe other people, to either reply to that said person or voice that comes at you with that answer?
Yeah, on the topic of accessibility, well, first of all, I think as a profession, we have this idea that we are mandated to provide therapy at a low fee or pro bono or some and give back in some way, specifically in specific ways. And I'm going to challenge that. And I know some people might disagree with me. We are not mandated. We are encouraged through our ethics code to do proactive work in some form. That doesn't have to be low fee therapy. That can be activism. That can be providing psychoeducational content. That can be a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be pro bono or low fee therapy, right? And again, it's encouraged. It's not mandated. I'm a mom of twins running two businesses. It is not currently in the season of my life to do that. And so I am not expecting myself to stay at some standard that I have to give back in this very specific way, if it doesn't fit with my practice right now. And so currently my practice does not include reduced fees or pro bono spots, barring the people that I haven't brought up, right? I do not offer reduced fees or sliding scales currently. I do have my own way of giving back, and that's here and now, like this kind of stuff, my Facebook group, the way that I'm trying to help other therapists be well so they can serve more people for a longer period of time. I also have a neurodivergent child, at least one, maybe two, I don't know yet. And that requires a tremendous amount of learning and education and development on my part. And right now, that's really important to me. And that requires a lot of my bandwidth. And so I do not have space in this season of my life to give away therapy. And that's okay. And if you don't, that's fine too. Like, don't make it a mandate. But if you really, if giving back or if doing something proactive is important to you, look at the different ways you can do that that doesn't burn you out, right? There are so many different ways to be accessible that aren't just therapy. And if the answer is therapy, great, do that too, right? But make sure you're okay first.
That's a great point you bring up. And I think one of the questions we also got around accessibility is, do you have clients of different ethnic minorities like that you're able to serve?
Yeah, this is a great question. I really appreciated someone asked this question. So I went back to my stats. Seven of my 23 active clients are come from some sort of ethnic minority or marginalized group, and that's 30%. So approximately 30% of my practice. And I'll say, like, as a white therapist, I don't expect that a lot of BIPOC or marginalized or minority clients come to me in general. I'm all for it, but I'm not expecting it. So I was actually really pleasantly surprised to see that it was 30%. But yeah, that's a great question. And this gets me into another comment that I think is really interesting, is that, let me preface this by saying there are very real barriers to wealth and means for marginalized communities, ethnic minorities, right? That is real. And not all of them are of low means,
Yeah.
right? And I've talked to several other clinicians about this concept, like, how have we internalized our own biases about what our population or our specialty or our niche can afford by assuming that they can't afford higher fee therapy? Like, is it true? I had a friend who treats the trans community, and she said, I can't possibly charge $200. My population can't afford that. I said, wow, it's interesting that you have internalized this belief that your population can't be financially prosperous.
Hmm.
And so, yes, absolutely, there are people who cannot afford 200. That is a real thing. And there are people in your niche who can. And again, this comes back to that idea of, how do we distribute our caseload in a way that, if you want to be able to serve both of them, can you find a way to structure your practice that can do that, where some pay 100 and some pay 200, and they balance each other out? right? Like, how do you need to structure it so that you can create accessibility from a financial perspective? And again, accessibility can be more than just money, but that's one of the biggest ways, right? So I think that's something we need to be looking at within our own biases as well.
And to go back about this and bring it to the very beginning of understanding your journey and how you started this process, what would you tell like a clinician like me who started their practice at the beginning of the year, or anyone within their first 3 years of practice, to fee setting, how navigating that, how can we get to the space and feel comfortable, and looking back on where you were of your younger therapist self in private practice?
One, don't base your fees on other people,
Mm,
right? Again, those assumptions that we make about why they did it the way they did it. So don't do that. Make sure that you're financially stable in your practice and that your financial plan for your practice is going to sustain you first. And then no, like get really comfortable with numbers where you can make database decisions about your practice, where you can really dig into the numbers and understand oh, am I financially okay or not? What decisions do I need to make based on that? What do I need to do next? So you're not just making decisions on emotion and fear and scarcity. It's actually based in numbers. And that helps a ton in this process.
and then I'm also curious, what are any of the downsides you've felt, if any, for charging 350?
Yeah, the income fluctuations are greater.
Okay.
Right? When a client leaves, if they are seeing me every 2 weeks, that's $700 a month that I am not getting anymore. So
That's
that
real.
is that is very real, right? And so it requires building that into the practice plan, is that there's going to be bigger fluctuations. And so how do I deal with those? How do you want to I have to have a different relationship with that because I can't let that make me scared. I have
Mm.
to just understand that that's part of it.
And then what has changed in your life now that you've been able to set this fee? How has your life changed? How's your practice changed? One of your starting point that you said that was the tipping point for you, right? Is
Yeah.
that this was impacting your family, your husband's health,
Yep.
navigating parenting, living. How has this changed for you overall?
Massively, actually. Oh wow. There's emotion there. My husband left the reserves,
Wow.
so he's no longer a reservist. He is taking on less overtime at his law enforcement job. Um, we have been able to commit more to our couples therapy, which honestly saved our marriage. I have been able to get back into my fitness more consistently, which it's a cornerstone for me of my well-being. I am more available to my kids outside of working hours. I have been able to start a second business, this one, and grow it. And I would not have been able to do that if I had not changed my fee structure. Um, Gosh, I don't know. That's probably the most of it. I'm sure there's more. But
Hey,
yeah,
I'm just grateful to hear this, right? Because it gives hope of I'm not going to have to, and I think other clinicians eventually run into burnout again or have this thing, knowing and having this conversation of how to set my fee, and that there is traction moving forward if you put all the right things in place, which you've highlighted as SEO, marketing, specialized niches, continuing to connect with other like-minded people. I think
right.
I'd also add having a strong either consultation group, so like people that know how you work.
Yep.
Um,
Super helpful. Absolutely.
yeah.
There's so many different ways to get here. I think at its foundation, it's believing it's possible, right? And that sounds, I don't know, it sounds a little hooky, but
It's
truly, if
true.
you believe that this is possible, then you will be open to figuring out how to make it possible, right? But if you don't think it's possible, then there's no way you're ever going to get to the how. And it doesn't need to be based on because I've practiced for this many years or because I have this certification. You can look at your life and what you need, and you can make strategic decisions to get there over time. And it's possible, right? This can be done. And I argue that if more therapists charged living wages for
Mm,
themselves,
mhm.
then we as a profession would be better off because it would change some of the tides in the culture of what is expected of us.
Yeah.
So that's my soapbox.
Well, I appreciate, everything you've shared. I think right now it's surmised a lot of what's come up. I don't know if there's any more questions that have popped up in the chat or anything else like that, but I really value you and what you've taught me and helped me kind of navigate getting off the ship, because from the beginning of grad school, I wanted to do this. And I know I felt this limiting journey for myself and the possibility of doing that without having some leadership or guidance from someone else to take me out of the dredges of this feeling of impossibility. So thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you, everyone, for submitting such incredible questions and for joining us live, for watching the replay. I have one last thing before we leave. I have a flash sale coming, and you've probably seen the posts. But I have a bunch of stuff going on sale. Like I said before, I was gonna do a proper launch of Practice by Design, but honestly, I was burning out, so I made a change because we're allowed to, and I'm doing a flash sale. So I have a bunch of stuff that's gonna be going on sale. I kind of teased at the percentage. It's gonna be a whole 23%. So that actually amounts to over $450 off of Practice by Design, and a pretty good chunk of change off my other courses. So that's starting on Tuesday because Monday's Labor Day. And you'll be getting a bunch of posts about it. Just a few emails. I promise it's not going to be too many, so stick with me. And yeah, if you have any questions about the things that are on sale or whether or not it's something that will help you achieve whatever goal or get through whatever block you're in, let me know. I'm always available. You can DM me, you can comment in the group, whatever you need. But look for more details on that. And I'm just excited you guys were here. Thank you so much for all of this. Yeah.
Thank you for having me and allowing me to interview you to understand this process. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Um,
All right. All right, guys. Well, we are going to wrap this up. I gotta find the little thing that says how to stop going live, and then, we'll see you in the room.